the basics of hospitality ideally is always security.
It is.
Nobody would wish
the
to come and
backbone.
spend their time where there is no security,
Ati
where they
nitoke
don't
nyumbani
feel safe.
nikuje mahali penye kuko safe.
No. That is why data right now I think is the most expensive asset or
modern day oil.
Exactly. It's the modern day oil, and if you can expose just some little data, then you know what you can do. And if you look at hotels, how many times in a day do you gather or collect data from an individual? It's a lot.
We've been wondering what happens during holidays, and normally we go to hotels, we book Airbnbs, we decide to go have a staycation from time to time. This is a topic that many Kenyans probably look over, but security is very critical in the hospitality industry, which begs the question, how do we conduct ourselves to become safe and secure in the hospitality industry? And to help me deep dive in this topic is none other than my good friend, George. George.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Tell us about yourself and a little bit about this topic.
My name is George Muga. I'm the security manager at Mercure and Pullman Hotel, which is basically one of the hotels in their core group of hotels.
Okay.
So 9 years experience in private security, 7 of those in the hospitality industry.
Wow.
Yeah, so quite a number of years.
Hapo umeiva unaungua.
Bado. Every day you learn something new in security. As you know, security is very diverse and dynamic. So most when it comes to even hospitality is also changing every single day. So when this happens, you also have to be at par with everything that happens at that particular time. But the most important thing is always the guest experience that you give your guests in terms of security, because most of the time you're the first contact when they get into the hotel.
So security is the face of any establishment, be
Exactly.
it? Okay.
Everywhere we go, and you know, nowadays, look at it even from the wider perspective and angle. Even if it is not the hotels or the hospitality industry in general, everywhere you walk into a building nowadays, you find security.
Yeah.
So security is very key and mandatory in everything that we do, in our day-to-day activities and our daily operations in everything that we do.
Normally, watu hufikiria security tu ni ule guard mwenye ako nje, ule mwenye ako pale kwa scanning, na wale wanafanya patrols. In my own opinion, I believe security, and especially hospitality, iko na a lot of things involved.
Yeah. In fact, squeeze ukiangalia, we have moved from that notion and aspect of guarding. Mostly in each and every building you walk to, and I'll tell you from my experience in hospitality security more, because that is where I've based and established more.
Yes.
I'll discuss more in that angle and area. The officers whom you meet at the gate, they are not just guards. They are safety and security officers.
Wow.
Now, when you speak about safety and security, number one, what is safety? You know, safety, these are the precautionary measures that you take to protect yourselves or even your guests and the property and the image of the entity that you work in. If you look at the hotel industry nowadays, things are shifting. Nowadays, if you look at the risks and threats that people are dealing with in some years to go, just a few years ago, right now, it is very dynamic and things have changed. A great deal.
Yeah.
So safety and security, these are two things that you have to understand, because they're not the same thing. When it comes to safety, these are the precautionary measures that you put in place, the policies you put in place, the trainings you put in place to ensure that everybody understands and knows what is required of them. Safety ideally deals with unintended threats, but security deals with the intended threats. And safety mostly is internal. Security mostly is protection and defense from anything intended from out that would ideally harm the property, individuals. And you know, the most important aspect that we deal with every single day is protection of life. Number one, before any other thing. So those officers whom you normally meet at the point of entry, they are not just guards. They are safety and security officers. So that aspect is one aspect that each and everyone have to understand. Now, if you look at the hospitality industry, it is a bit different, because this is a situation whereby you are dealing with a guest who's traveled miles away to come and enjoy their stay in Kenya, or even the local guests who've come. They have left the comfort of their home to come and get a different experience from a hotel industry. Now, this officer who meets the guest at the point of entry, number one, he has to ensure that there is top-notch customer service that they give to the guests.
Yes. When you're talking about now this, the security personnel or security officers at the entry point,
Yes.
you've talked about things that are very critical because probably there's somebody watching out there and probably they're looking at being into hospitality security.
Yes.
So they're not just ordinary security officers.
Yep.
They have gone through training on first aid, training on customer service. You've named a lot of items. So how do you go about in your selection now that you're the one in charge? How do you get to select that team for that particular, establishment, that hotel? What do you look for?
Basically, what I normally am interested in so much is the personality of an individual.
Okay.
Because that is very key to me, because once you get that right, this is somebody who can be open-minded. And in security, there's one basic component and requirement and item, which is discipline.
Yes.
If you're not disciplined, you can't work in the field of security.
True.
So number one, I have to get somebody who's disciplined, somebody who is open-minded. And number three, I normally so big in access control. So if an officer can prove to me that the three are items that he or she is not going to have problems dealing with, then off we go.
They stand a high chance.
Off we go. Because basically, you get somebody as long as the qualities are there and the passion is in them, it is easier for you now to develop them to who you want them to be.
Okay.
And that one now comes in terms of the training that you give them. Because I've worked in different entities in the hotel industry, different brands. The largest being Accor, and my many years has been in Accor, starting from Movenpick, now here at Mercure Hotel. Now, the basics that I discovered in all the officers whom I work with is number one, the moment you discover one has passion in security, you can always put into them whatever you want them to be, and they'll become that.
It's called imprinting.
Exactly. And once you have done your training has to be tailor-made to the traditions of the entity you're working in.
Yeah.
Because the traditions that, let's say an entity that I've worked in like Movenpick doesn't have the same traditions as Mercure Hotel.
Okay.
Mercure Hotel is locally inspired. Everything that is within Mercure Hotel is locally inspired.
Yeah.
So you would find that the moment you get the traditions right within the entity first, that one coupled now with the basic training that the officer has got from their private training academy, then now you incorporate now the hospitality security training in it. The three pillars, you will find that you'll have very, very good officers that would actually deliver.
It's very crucial and important.
Yep.
Mi huangalia security from, especially with corporates, na iangalianga from a different angle.
Yep.
I look at it in a way that, there's something we call enterprise security risk management, whereby yule security officer ama security personnel mwenye ako pale ni kama stakeholder.
Yep.
We are moving away from ile rigidity ya security iko tough, iko nini, but it's more of an enabler ya biashara.
Yeah,
That's what I tell people.
Exactly. If you look at security, and it's a very sad perspective that at times security is given as a consuming department or as a department that doesn't generate revenue.
Yeah.
But ideally, if you look at security, you'll always find that these are the business accelerators into the hospitality industry, because the basics of hospitality ideally is always security. Nobody would wish to come and spend their time where there is no security, where they don't feel safe. No. Kila mtu kila mahali unaingia, hata iwe ni mall, iwe ni wapi. And also in hotels, you are spending your money. You have not come here for free.
Yes.
You've come here to spend your money so that you enjoy the hospitality around. It is more of the feel that you have within the entity. So if that person who is at the main gate doesn't become part of it, they are stakeholders. They form part of the guest experience, and that is where the guest experience starts within the property. Yeah. Of course, the guest experience will start maybe from the transfers from the airport up to the point whereby they reach the hotel. Yeah. But by the time they reach the hotel, where do the experience start? The experience starts from the main entry whereby they meet the safety and security officers. Okay. So basically, they are stakeholders, and they are very, very key and important people in the chain of guest experience up to the time the guest checks out from the hotel. And even when the guest is checking out, the experience that the guest still gets while they exit the hotel, that one will tell you a lot on what they've felt around. Okay. Because impressions, whatever you feel lasts longer than any other thing.
Exactly.
So it is very, very key that the security officers at the gate and the security department in general is normally treated with a lot of dignity and sure, very, very, very important.
Another critical issue that I want us to dive in, definitely ukiwa kwa kazi, kila kazi iko na changamoto, but before we go to the challenges, I want you to take us through now your experience dealing with different kinds of clients who come to the hotel. Before now we go to the challenges that you faced in the industry.
So first of all, you have to understand what kind of a hotel are we working for? What kind of an entity am I working for?
Yeah.
Because the kind of guests that we receive most of our city hotels is so different from the kind of guests that resorts would get, that hotels in the coast would get. Ideally, in the city life, you'd always find most of your clients are business clients. So the moment you first understand that, what kind of a clientele do I deal with in my hotel, that one forms the basics of how you have to pass down your experience to them and how you treat them and the rest. I'm not saying they have to be treated differently, but of course somebody who is coming on business and somebody who is going on leisure, then there are some also who are doing business and leisure at the same time, is so different. So you have to actually tailor make your experience to suit their needs within where they are working. Now, what challenges do we normally experience at times?
Yeah.
I would say that the challenge that we experience, number one, is people not having that sense of security in them. Anytime you are going anywhere, forget about the security of that place. You as an individual, how safe do you keep yourself? And you see, nowadays, you can only expose yourself more to vulnerabilities based on what you expose, would say there, or how you carry yourself. Very crucial and very key. If you're coming into a hotel and you are having very expensive things like the jewelry and the rest, there are measures that have been taken that you have to ensure that when you are within the hotel, you as an individual, first of all, you take care of your security before any other thing. So the hotel will put measures that are required, but you as an individual also, you have to ensure that you have a responsibility to ensure that yourself you are safe. So the challenges that we normally receive at times, you find that somebody comes into the hotel, for example, but they fail to even take the basic necessary measures of security that they ought to take. If you look at the current world that we are living in, leave alone the physical security bit that we do, things are really moving very fast to issues of technology and information safety than any other thing. You come to a hotel, take an example some few years ago whereby we used to pay in cash. Things have changed. Nowadays people pay via cards mostly. It is electronic transfer, left, right and center, M-Pesa and such like things.
And there's some fair share of vulnerability pale.
Exactly. Because in each and every change that we've had in the hospitality industry in terms of people progressing to the newer technologies, we are even exposed more to these technologies that come in, and we have to learn every single day and time that once I've gotten into, let's take an example, payment with the Visa cards. As a hotel, we'll always ensure, and we normally do a very thorough background check on our staff to ensure that every staff that deals with the guest, if you look at our core hotels, generally worldwide, we normally have a program called the PCI DSS training, whereby we are trained to protect data. Any data that falls into your hand. If you look at the front office guys, the receptionist, you look at the guys who are at the restaurant, the cashiers, they deal with a lot of data from the guests. So if our staff themselves are not aware of what is required of them to then actually they become a conduit to the vulnerabilities that we are having. So number one, we also always have to ensure that we deal with that. Most of the challenges that used to be there have really changed a great deal. Right now, the most important and crucial element of threat that we are dealing with and challenge we are dealing with is protection of data. Very key. Because once somebody has your data, they can mine a lot from you. And that is why data right now, I think, is the most expensive asset or
modern day oil.
Exactly. It's the modern day oil, and if you can expose just some little data, then you know what you can do. And if you look at hotels, how many times in a day do you gather or collect data from an individual? It's a lot. So those are the major challenges that we deal with. Of course, there are those challenges that will always be there, the terrorism challenges. Those are things that will never go away easily. And people will always take any slightest advantage at any given point that they get to deal with it. Look at hotels, and hotels are very funny at times. At times when you're so busy, you'll always find that eyes are everywhere.
Yes.
So things won't happen as much.
Yeah.
But when it is quiet, that is when you find it's a slow day, things are moving slowly, the operations are slowly. That is when you realize that there's a lot of vulnerability, because that is when now people know that, okay, guys have also slowed down in the operations, so everybody is not so keen with what is happening, and quite a lot happens during that time. So these are times that as a safety and security officers, most of the time I normally tell my guys, and myself, I'm always very, very keen. In security, there are no chances and there are no assumptions.
Yeah.
So at no point should you ever let your guard down, no matter what happens.
Treat dummy as live.
As live, any day, any time. And that is why when you normally train with a dummy, you don't treat it as a dummy at any given point.
It's live.
It's live. It's live. Yeah, because ideally, there's situations that we normally train or experience. Those are the kind of things that give us real-time experiences. So anything that you see anything, report everything. Yeah. See something, report everything.
I've seen you know, like I listened to somebody still as a security person, and they were talking about the challenge they face when they are trying to vet items, especially from clients who want to come. So probably you can tell us how you know, I can be able to, you know, I want to come to your hotel where you're the security in charge, and I come and I'm carrying items that probably the hotel does not allow me to carry. But this stuff that I have is probably of sentimental value to me. But because of the kind of policies that are in the hotels, it becomes restricted. How do you handle such kind of cases? Probably somebody comes na kona pet, for example.
That happens a lot. There are those hotels that allow pets, there are those that don't allow pets for obvious reasons. Number one, the kind of guests, these are very, you know, you meet people of all walks of life. You might find somebody who is allergic to pet fur, somebody who is not, there are people who also just naturally don't like pets. So all these guests are people who you are supposed to accommodate at the end of the day. So number one, it starts from all the booking avenues. We have the online bookings, the walk-in guests. You have to tell them in advance your policies that you have in place. But then most of the times, policies will always lean towards the majority. But then we'll also have policies that accommodate even the minority. But then get an example whereby you are having a situation whereby 90% of your guests maybe are not comfortable, because ideally, you know, at times cultures are different. And we're talking about the pet, and then we'll talk about any other item that might also be a challenge in terms of even accessing to the hotel. Now, you have to accommodate all the guests, and it's normally a challenge, by the way, at the end of the day. Somebody comes and they have, if it is apartments, no problem. Apartments have, and by the way, you know, hotels.
There's a difference between. All of them fall under hospitality.
All of them fall under hospitality. And if you look at somewhere, I want to give you an example of somewhere I've worked in, and it's a perfect example for that. If you look at Movenpick is a kind of a situation whereby it has a mixed hospitality environment, whereby there are apartments and there is a hotel. So it's Movenpick Hotel and Residences. So the residences now have the apartment side.
So
and
more
then,
like Airbnb. The apartments are, what do you mean by the apartments? Is it for, you know, like Airbnb way, or is somebody who's just renting and living there?
Apartments renting and living there. So you find it mostly there are long-staying guests who will stay for a year, you know, 3 months, but not ideally short periods of time. So the rules that govern an apartment are so different from the rules that govern an hotel. Why? If you look at the setup of an apartment, it's a completely different setup from hotels. Hotels, we have rooms, same corridors and the rest. Apartments are more open. So you'd find that in apartments, it's easier to get, the laws with the pets and the rest are a bit loosened. They're not so tight and strict as hotels. With hotels, it might be a bit tricky. One, with the setup the way it is in itself. We have carpets in the hotel. You look at it, it's maybe just that room the way it is, but for apartment there are several rooms. You have a very big balcony whereby unaweza weka carpet kako hapo nje. So these are some of the challenges, but all the policies that are normally drafted and crafted for hotels normally go with the guidelines, with the legal laws that are there, both local and national laws that are there. So it is very difficult to find that there is any law that or policy in the hotel that has been drafted that does not go in line with the local regulations and the national regulations.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what about now? I read in the papers.
Yep.
So let's say you're working. Wewe umeenda tu job vizuri, umesema leo ni siku tu kama ingine. Then mtu mwenye anafanya mambo ya room service.
Yeah.
Akuja kuambia kwa one of the washrooms amepata nini? Weapon.
Yeah.
How can you handle such?
Number one, that area becomes a crime scene for me because bunduki uwezi jua imetoka wapi, kitu ya kwanza. And you know, gun laws in Kenya, there is a Civilian Firearm Regulation Act which guides civilians who are having firearms on how they need to conduct themselves and how they need to take care of that firearm that they are having. Because a firearm is one very tricky item. You and I know from our background how these things at times go. And for you to be given a firearm, we are speaking from a civilian firearm aspect first.
Yes.
For you to be given a firearm, you must have been vetted. You must have gone through psychological tests, through background checks through the DCI. So there's quite a lot of background checks done, thorough vetting done before you get that firearm. Okay. So it reaches a point whereby, because if the firearm is supposed to protect you, and if you mishandle it, then it will also become a tool that would actually harm you. Now it becomes a threat to you again. Yeah. So ideally, before you are handed over a firearm or you are given a firearm license and have been vetted and approved to hold a firearm, you must have gone through all this vetting, and you must have passed. So a situation whereby a firearm is found inside a toilet, because this is something that was there in the papers a few days ago, that was carelessness. That is carelessness of the highest order, because number one, suppose this lands in the wrong hands, what happens? Yeah. And that is why in every entity I've always worked, I normally have a civilian firearm policy that guides clearly when you come to any hotel, and I know this applies to all the hotels in Nairobi. Yeah. Anybody who comes with a firearm into the hotel, you have to register the firearm.
You have to declare
it. You have to declare it. So there's always a registration form for it, and there is a policy that guides you on how you need to handle that. And that policy is also crafted from the Civilian Firearm License Act. Okay. So all the procedures and processes that you need to be following when you're having the firearm. It's supposed to be concealed, it's not supposed to be exposed, it's not supposed to be handled carelessly, like that case that was exposed, you know. And it's supposed to be either on your body or in a safe inside your house.
Yeah, or on your site.
Yeah. So if it is not in your site already, that one alone draws red flags. You're not supposed to be handling it. Yeah. If you look at the police, of course the police are trained, our boys in uniform, and I really, really have immense respect for those guys in uniform. Yeah. It is very rare and difficult to find anybody in uniform mishandling a firearm.
No, they can't.
It is because they know the repercussions, and and they have been trained, and this is their daily life. So most of the time, you'll always find these mistakes come from civilian firearm holders. No pun intended, but at times the way we normally handle things is not the right way.
Hoteli lazima ikaribishe wageni, si ndio? But now sometimes you find that there are some certain kind of guests who become a nuisance. Yeah. Yani wamekuja tu ku cause chaos. Yeah. And that is the it's something that really bothers, like just creating a lot of toxic environment, for lack of a better word. That means probably they are coming and they're just probably not following whatever policies and procedures that are set. So does that make you, as a security professional in the hospitality industry, to have your stand, or will it be seen as securities trying to push away clients? How do you go about handling,
We call them difficult guests.
Difficult guests, yes.
So in every entity, you will never miss such guests. There are those who ideally were just born difficult. Somebody who would never want to follow procedures and policies around. There are those also who feel at times, security is not always so comfortable. Even to myself, at times, I'm a security professional, but you go to a mall sometimes, you feel tired. Hutaki kushuka kwa gari, usachiwe, So it's something that we understand deeply, and we normally know how to handle it, because through the trainings, and trainings are very, very key to our officers, and even myself as the security manager, most of the time you'll always find that I'll have to refresh myself in most of these things.
Yeah.
So, number one, we have to understand we are in the hospitality industry. So, at any given point, you get a difficult guest or a guest who doesn't want to follow the policies and procedures around. Some of these people don't understand. That is why you'll find somebody is having difficulties even in following up the policies. But then if you make them understand the reason why you are doing this, because sometimes, let me give you a perfect example. Somebody comes at the main entry and then he doesn't want to be searched. But then you ask yourself, if everybody was getting into this property without being searched, how many of items which would be a threat to the guest would get into the premise?
A lot.
And you see, security starts with you as an individual.
Yeah.
And once you've made sure that you are safe, then you can be guaranteed that any other person who is on next to you is safe.
Yeah.
So there are no, in fact, as I told you when you were starting, there are no assumptions in security. And at any given point, everybody has to go. If it is search, everybody will have to go through search.
Yeah.
That is how you'll ensure that the property is safe, and every other person who is within the property is also safe. So such guests, number one, you have to ensure that you explain to them and understand why are you doing the processes that you are doing. Because most of the time you realize that somebody comes, or somebody just decides to be difficult with you. Or if he's a security guy like me, some of them just come to see, okay, fine. What about if I cause chaos? Will I get an easy entry in? It's just like a penetration test.
Yeah.
They are doing this to ensure that the guys who are also there, because every security guy will always mean well in terms of security for whoever, any entity they are going into.
Yeah.
Because themselves, they also want to be safe. So somebody would come and there are two categories. Somebody will just decide to be difficult. Somebody will be difficult because they don't understand the procedures.
Okay.
They are not aware of what is happening. But once you make them aware of what is happening, you'll find that you'll have an easy way with them. Yeah.
How about now when you're hosting all these people from different walks of life, and then everybody always has a phone out.
Yep.
Kila mtu anataka kuchukua selfie, anataka kuchukua video. They want to what extent do you allow that without infringing? I know it's something that hata mimi sijui how to go about it, but probably.
Yeah, there's general data protection rights.
Okay.
And it's also one very tricky, and those are the challenges that I normally have experienced in the hospitality industry in the last few years.
Yeah.
Controlling data at the end of the day. This photo that is being taken is data. You don't know where it's going to be processed.
Yeah.
You don't know who is in that data that is going to be processed and what legal liabilities you might face. So it's always important and prudent for hotels to designate specific areas for people because ideally when I come to a hotel, I've taken my meal, I want to have memories for my stay there and my spend there.
Yeah.
So ideally, it is very prudent, yes, at the same time having guest experience rolled out to the guest, but also ensuring that you are safe legally and even, of course, let me tell you what normally happens mostly with photos before I explain the general data protection regulation issue.
Yeah.
Those who normally spy hotels, how do they collect data? They'll not record it in their heads. They'll definitely have records of the photos and videos they take around.
Yes.
That is the basic spying that goes around. When somebody wants to hit this place, what do? They'll definitely come, take photos, take videos of the place. They'll not just walk in, watch the way things are happening and go, no. They must have a record of what is happening, go sit down, strategize and plan for that. That is number one. So there are those critical infrastructure areas that we don't allow photos to be taken in. Of course, the critical infrastructure.
And they're well signed.
So let me tell you, most of the times you'll find that there are some hotels which have the no photography policy displayed everywhere.
Yeah.
But then the no photography policy at times is a silent law. It's like, let me give you one of the examples of a basic silent law. You cannot come and urinate on top of this table. It's a silent law that you can't do it. The same happens, and everybody is becoming more aware with the data processing all over wherever we are. Because as an individual, if I wouldn't be comfortable being in a photo that I didn't give consent to, then I shouldn't be doing that to somebody else.
Yeah.
So the kind of challenges that we normally receive are fine. There are public areas where we can take photos, and those areas are known that they are public areas. Number one, by either informing the guest that if you want to take photos, and most of guests, by the way, I'm very happy with the kind of clients and guests we receive these days.
Yeah.
They are so much enlightened and they know.
Informed,
they'll come and ask you, am I allowed to take photos? You see, and they'll come and take photos. You give them a go ahead and they'll take photos.
Yeah.
But then have an example whereby somebody wants to take a photo of the guards doing the operations at the main entry. That is a critical infrastructure area.
Yeah.
So why are you having videos of operations of the search at the main entries? What is your intention? How is that giving you memories of your stay within the hotel? Doesn't make any sense.
Watasema ni content.
Content, sasa content aje? Hiyo content inakusaidia nani? Ideally, unaona askari anafanya kazi yake pale wagetu unaenda kumpiga picha. How is that contributing towards your content? It is not. It is not. And by doing so, you would give me several ideas, because why are you doing that? Is there something sinister you're planning to do? So those are some of the areas that are just so open that I would actually talk to about in terms of general data protection regulation, and also just ensuring that the hotel is actually saved. Now, there is a situation whereby we have issues to deal with marketing. You have come at Mercure and Pullman hotel. Pullman is still under construction. But by there, basically, I didn't explain to you the kind of a scenario we are in. We have a very, very interesting
Tell me about
entity. Pullman and Mercure Nairobi Upper Hill is a combo hotel. Ideally, in a core group of hotels, we have clusters. So we have the premium hotels, we have the luxury as the top tier brand, we have the premium hotels, we have the mid-scale, and then we have the budget hotels. Now, Mercure and Pullman, the luxury brands fall under the M Gallery, which is being built in Gigiri, which is yet to open very soon. And then we have Fairmont the Norfolk, which is just in town. And then now, if you come at the premium brands, now we have Movenpick, we have Pullman, which is now coming up. We have Mount Kenya Safari Club, you know. So if you look at this level of hotels, ours is in such a situation whereby we are not clustered, but we are two scales in one. So Mercure is a mid-scale, Pullman is a premium brand. So both brands in the same entity. So we call ours, it's a combo setup. Combo setup of a hotel. So you find in terms of marketing, going back to what we are discussing in terms of taking photos and the rest. Mostly you will find that photography and videography is normally controlled with marketing, PR and marketing, and security. Security for obvious security reasons. We would never wish that our critical infrastructures are exposed outside there. Because ideally, if you are a guest, there are guest areas designated for guests. If I see you taking photos in critical infrastructure areas, not photos that would actually give you memories, then ideally I would start questioning the reason why you are taking the photos. But if there are your photos, you are taking your own selfies, and be very careful. Not all photos might look like they are genuine photos, but some of them are not. Because ideally, the reason why at times, and you'll see in hotels, we don't restrict you from taking photos, but in restricted areas, don't take photos. There are those restricted areas. An example, why would you take a photo in my gas tank? You see, that is an infrastructure and it's a critical area that you're not supposed to. You're walking around taking photos of the location of the CCTV cameras where they are. Definitely will explain to me, why are you taking photos of my security infrastructure where it is? But if you're taking a photo inside the pool, that photo should also be within capturing you and your friends, not any other person who is not intended to be in that photo. So whether it is in the public area, yes, take photos as much as you want for your memories, but ensure that that photo doesn't infringe the rights of any other guest. At the end of the day, doesn't expose us in terms of our security. So those are the most critical and key areas. If guests would just observe that, number one, ensure that whatever photos you are taking respects the rights of the other guest, and also that whatever photos you are taking are not going to cause any security risk within the property, then you're good to go. We'll never have problems with you.
We've exhausted so much about the hotel in itself. Nataka tuongelele sasa an individual. Mtu anataka kuja kwa hoteli. Just tell us briefly, because najua hii ni story tutaongea. Na
tusimalize hata leo.
Tuwezi maliza. So tuambie nao kama mtu individual anataka kukuja kwa hoteli. Na hizi threats zote, risk zote zenye tumezimention. How can this person make him or herself feel safer or a harder target, because unajua hoteli si inakaribisha kila mtu. So how can this person take advantage of the making him or herself a harder target through your guidance? So unaweza tuambia mtu akitaka kuja kwa hoteli, not necessarily ikuwe ni Mercure, but kama anataka kuja Mercure, in the back of their mind wafanye nini inafaa waangalie in case kuna issue kama hiyo. So probably just advise them.
When going to a hotel, and as I said, ideally there is safety and security aspect. The safety aspect are the precautionary measures we've taken for the unintended harm that would occur or happen to any of our guests. And believe you, even our staff are our guests.
Yes.
They don't live here. They don't, they normally come every day, go home. So they are our internal guests. Then we go out now to the guests now whom we host and want to give experience anytime they come here, make them feel welcome, make them feel at home. It is very key and crucial. And as I always say, the most important aspect to me as an individual, and I would take myself as an individual visiting a hotel.
Yes.
Number one thing I would be very cautious and careful about would be my security. When I do go to holidays, and when I go to holidays, this is what I normally do. I normally assume there is no security at the main gate entry. The moment I have that kind of a mentality, it will actually draw me into creating my own safety and security awareness everywhere and everything I do, whether it's the restaurant, whether it's my room or everything I do. And if it's a guest who he or she is coming to stay within the hotel, now your room becomes like most of the time whereby you'll spend your time. If you're having meeting and events around, the meeting rooms and your room now becomes where you would concentrate so much. If it's a guest who was just coming for leisure, then ideally it would mean the room, the restaurants, that is where they'll be. So each and every place you'll always be. Always ensure that you're safe, number one. Number two, by being safe, what do I mean? I mean, let us start with the rooms.
Yes.
In fact, let us just start from the time you get into the hotel from the main gate. Be prepared. I'm always happy when I get into a hotel and I find there are very stringent measures in terms of search. Because number one, I know very well if they can get it right at the access point, whatever happens inside is normally at times easier to deal with than dealing with a failed access control.
I usually say that there is never a second chance for a first impression.
There are never second chances, by the way. There are never second chances. So if I find, and at the main entry, security in hotels, if you look at it generally, is based on three things. At times it's normally 4, but a majority is normally 3. Now the 3 is normally the human aspect, which is normally it's always the basic. You can miss any other thing, but missing the human aspect in security is very difficult. So we have the human aspect, we have the equipment, and then we have the policies. So basically, from a security professional point of view, when I get into a hotel, just seeing the activities and actions at the main entry will tell me whether their policies are right. The officers who are handling me, have they been trained? They know what they are doing. The equipment they are having. I'm always very cautious and keen to watch. If I walk through a walk-through detector, is it really doing what is required? And that is why I tell you, and this is where we are talking about the difficult guests. At times they come to do a penetration test. Ideally, I love doing that for my fellow security professionals, so that I also just ensure they are safe. If they're not okay, we sit down and discuss and tell them, oh, guy, I came here and I noticed ABC lapses. Please just adjust and work on them. And you'll always find somebody who's a professional in the industry will take whatever you tell them very seriously. So number one, when you're coming in, I am very, very cautious and I check the processes at the main entry. Are these people doing what is required of them? Did I get the right customer service when I was interacting with the security officer? From there, of course, you'll meet the concierge, will also handle you. And most concierge in the hotel normally do a large chunk of security bit. Because the concierge is the one who will take you to the room. He's the one who knows which room you go to. And those guys are very, very sharp guys. They are. I really respect them a lot. The concierge is the one who will walk you through the room. These are where the main switches are. This is where the washrooms are. This is where your bedside lamp switch is. This is where your safe is. In any case you have, these are the guys who will always advise you and tell you, in any case you have any valuables, you need to keep them in the safe. Because most of the time, once security has done their bit at the main entry, the security guys will not take you to the room.
They hand you over to the
they hand you over to the concierge. Now the concierge will hand you over now to the front office for check-in and the rest. During the check-in, and always guys, when you check into a hotel, always read those details of what you are signing on the registration card. Those details are very key. So read them and understand them. There are instructions that are normally given on the registration card, which at times we ignore. And they're very, very, very important. You're supposed to read through them and get to know. That is where you'll know how the hotel is and all the safety measures that you're required to take, and also what the hotel is offering you in terms of experience. So most of the times we're given, we just check, oh, you took my name, you took my passport number, you took my ID number, we sign and we go. Please be very careful. Take your time.
You need to read the whole.
Read through. Nobody's rushing you. Very, very important. Now, once this is now the experience you're walking through into the hotel. At the reception, always be very careful when you're paying via credit card or Visa card or MasterCard. Everyone knows the equipment that you've walked around, you've used your card left, right, and center, I've seen. If you see anybody who is either swiping or inserting your card into the machine 2, 3, 4 times, and your card is okay, those are the red flags you need to start checking on. Because number one, not everybody is clean.
Yeah.
Not everybody always means well. You'll find somebody who is also just crooked amongst the staff.
That's why we are human beings.
Yeah, we are human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So be cautious. That is where now your data starts getting out.
Okay.
You don't have now control. You've already given out your data. So you have to be very cautious and sure and get to know that wherever you are going, your hotel that you are staying in observe general data protection regulation. Okay. Very, very key. If you get it wrong there, your data is exposed, then you know that you will be in shit. But the hotel will also be in shit because they've exposed your data and that is not supposed to happen. So most hotels are trained. In fact, a majority of the hotels, 99% of hotels are trained on that. 1% of these things happen, yes. We can never be perfect 100%. But then also as a guest, are you also observing what is happening around you in terms of your data? Always be very cautious of whoever is standing next to you. Not everybody is a guest like you.
Yeah.
Somebody might be hanging around there. Maybe they have just come, they have been following you, don't know. And this is what normally happens, I normally tell guys. With the age of social media, don't expose everything. Yeah. I'm going to holiday in Malindi, you've posted it there. I'm going to holiday in Mombasa, you've posted it there. You never know who follows you closely. Yeah. You never know who has intentions with you to harm you. Yeah. So they'll follow you. You say you're going to Malindi, they'll hang around. You see. And nowadays with the Telegram and these softwares that are sold easily, somebody can easily get a software, track your mobile phone, track your movements. Yeah. You are on the way traveling to Malindi, but you're already telling guys, I'm already at the airport.
So that person meets you at the airport.
Exactly. He's following you. I've already been picked. And you see, we are only exposed as much as the information we give outside there. Yeah. It is us, all the exposures we'll always have. We are the ones who give the first-hand information. So you have to be very careful with everything that you do. So once you reach the reception desk, always ensure that you are served as an individual. No flank guests. Very, very key. And if they are, let them be served first.
I think the same can even apply to when you're going into the room.
Yeah.
Because I've been in a hotel before, and normally when you're escorted by the concierge, anakuachia pale kwa mlango.
Yes.
So some people, you know, they want to get the, I don't know how do I put it. They want to get in, you know, they don't know whether this person is staff or,
Now that is wrong because ideally from the reception, the concierge will pick you from the point whereby you've gotten into the hotel, will guide you to the reception. You are done with the activity at the reception. The concierge is supposed to pick you again.
Yes.
Take you up to your room because you haven't been to this hotel. Yeah. This is your first time. How are you going to get your way around? So the concierge will take you to the room. After taking you to the room, he's supposed to guide you inside the room. He's not supposed to leave you at the entry. No. He's supposed to take you to the room and leave you settled into the room. In case you need anything, you know, ideally he's supposed to make your entry into the hotel the most comfortable.
Exactly.
So that is why I was telling you that the concierge plays a big role in security. So much because he or she is the one whom we hand over the guest to. Okay. And he or she is the one who will hand over the guest to us when the guest will be leaving the hotel. So once you're done with the reception, you've checked in, and you know nowadays Accor has some very, very good strategy whereby you can do an express check-in.
Okay.
It's something that we'll have some time. I'll explain to you how actually it works. It has isn't a lot of things. Once you come, it will, you know, it has isn't a lot of processes. Yeah. But then coming back to the concierge guy, once the concierge has taken you into the room, he's supposed to actually even open the room for you, usher you in. Once you get in with the concierge will show you where you're supposed to keep your luggage, where the lights are, you know, everything that concerns the room, the guest safety aspect in itself. If in any case you have valuables, you have a laptop, you have jewelry, you have a safe, he's supposed to show you where the safe is, all those kind of things. Yeah. So when you get into a hotel and then you are left just somewhere in the hallway,
it's not professional.
It's not professional.
I'm sure, George, this is a story that we'll have to deep dive again, but because of time, I think we'll break it into parts. So This first part was just in general.
Yep.
So when we talk about this in the next time we meet, we want to deep dive into what is expected of now the security personnel, you know, when you're having all these diverse guests,
Yep.
and what do they do while in their room? Does it concern me as a security person, or, you know, things like that? So we'll have to deep dive into that topic and just bring it up. But because of that, I'm sure our fans out there, somebody out there really is looking up to you, and labda nataka kuwa pia expert kwa mambo ya security hospitality. So briefly tu tueleze how that journey is, and just talk to the Crimeshield fans waambie wale wanataka kuwa in the hospitality security.
So Crimeshield fans, I would really tell you that this is a very, very interesting profession, very enjoyable. Number one, in everything that you do, that always drives me, number one is the passion for it. So if you are somebody who loves interactions, then this is the right place for you. So personally, my background, I have a background in telecommunication engineering, diving into technical security installations. That is how I got into now having served, which I'll not talk much about. Then having worked severally in resorts, and then 2 resorts, and then now hotel industry. It is quite an interesting journey. It is something that once you have the passion for security, and the basics of everything, number one is to have passion in security, number one. Once that one is there, hospitality security is it's quite an interesting journey. I don't want to say it's a difficult one, because one thing I've come to learn is dealing with emotional intelligence and human aspect every single day is something that needs a lot of deep dive into it. But it's not something difficult. Once the passion is there, it's something that you can join so easily. I've had mentors. And for me to grow into this journey, number one, I had to go back and study security management also, despite having my background in telecommunication engineering. So it's a whole lot of training that some of them you learn while you're on the job. The basic training of security is there, yes, but then also you'll grow. And don't be so quick into jumping high.
Respect the process.
Yeah, respect the process, learn, grow. I started from supervision. I've grown up to where I am now as the security manager. And always have a mentor and a mentee. And I cannot finish this without saying that I have a mentor who is called Ben Olali. He's really taken me through this up to where I am today. Along the way, I have mentors. You know, there are those mini mentors as you grow along the way as you come. I worked with one guy called Nicholas Wahinya. He's still in private industry. I learned a lot from him also. Also having been in the hospitality industry, also out Sharjah, coming back to Kenya. I really drew a lot of inspiration from him. I've worked with the late Moses Kombe. He's a very respected name in the hospitality industry. He's also taught me a lot, and he's grown a lot of people. My last mini mentor, and I know I've stayed with him for the longest time in the hospitality, and I can say that he can be even the major mentor now in hospitality industry. He's the current security manager, Movenpick Hotel and Residences, Mr. Vincent Ochodo, a very respected guy, very astute man. So if you want to join hospitality industry, number one, have the basics of security. Soma. This one, you huwezi kosa, and weka vitabu, and you have to really be open. And the 3 things I normally tell officers: number one, just be a disciplined individual. Yes, you've gone through the training, either you are from the, and you know, most of the security managers, even in the hospitality right now as you speak, have very diverse background. There are those who came from the military, there are those who came from police, there are those who've grown from private industry up to where they are today. So we have a range of diverse security officers around. So the most important thing, be disciplined, be open-minded, and be ready for training and learning. You will learn a lot and be open to learn. Because this industry, the way it was last year, is not the same way it is this year. So number one, you have to be open-minded, be ready to learn. And then number 3, which is, that one is a policy that I developed for myself, is always just ensure you get it right at the access, you get it right when you're in. So those are the 3 basics that I can actually tell. Have a mentor, have mentees under you.
Amazing,
Yes.
amazing. George, I'm very, very happy that you created time out of your busy schedule just to come and teach us a little bit on hospitality security. You know, these guys, there's nowhere else you can get top quality, information on matters security apart from the Crimeshield podcast. You've heard it from the source that security starts with you and I. When you're going to the hotel, unaweza sahau kitu yoyote, but remember this. The entry point,
very key.
if it is checked, that means the inside is also checked. So at the end of the day, when you're going to your holidays, take note how you're being treated at the entry points. That means it's also the same or if not better treatment on the inside. That was it from our side. Thank you so much, George. Special shout out to Wojo Shared Office Space. They offer shared office spaces and offices. So check down on the socials and follow them. Probably you might be our neighbor. And
sure. As I was telling you that Mercure is a very interesting kind of hospitality setup. You realize about from the combo setup that we are having, Wojo adding in, and by the way, it's the first one so far.
Really?
That is a hotel, a combo hotel, and with the Wojo co-working spaces within itself.
Wow.
So ideally, hospitality has also grown to a point whereby it is no longer just coming and sleeping into the hotel.
You can even work.
You can work within the hotel.
So they come and sleep at Mercure, and then they come work
at Wojo.
Amazing. That's it, guys. See you next time. Keep it Crimeshield.
Thank you.